Greetings from an even shitter camera than what I normally use, because I'm using my laptop camera at the moment, pulling a Neil Colhat Car Australia in the 2 minutes today because I left my camera at some other house. You don't really care, do you? But you're just going to sit there and go, hang on, it's even shitter than usual. What's up with that? And also, pimple on his head. Well, how's that Korean mask going for you, fuckface? Yeah, we all know what your insults are. Come on, move on. Just think of something a little more original. Here we go. Now I've just warranted a bunch of terrible criticism as a result of that. But let's start it off with, yeah, you see that? America! God, my proudest possession. This, and also I have a shirt, but I'm too scared to ever wear that. But come on. You know, look, I've just got to tell this funny story behind this. It's very amusing. You'll like it. You want to hear something funny? Well, middle-aged housewife in a 20-year-old body strikes again. But anyway, look, the thing is, when I was at the airport, this was just when Trump won, and I was in Los Angeles, I think, and there was this store just called America, full stop. All the merchandise, because it was, I don't know, it might have been maybe a few months afterwards, all the merchandise was Hillary Clinton and Trump merch. Clearly, most of the Trump merch was bought. Hillary Clinton was just stocked to the brim. It was pathetic. But then again, who wants that? Who wants to put on her fake googly eyes where she's just got that? So obviously, the Trump merch was just selling hard. Pictures of Donald Trump on 50 Cent's body going total G. All that stuff. There was no one in the store. But I was walking past, and Miss Love from the podcast, go listen to it if you haven't. Huge Trump fan, so I thought, I've got to go buy some Trump merch. But it took me like 5 goes to get in there because I was so scared. Obviously, you're in California. It's not exactly Trump territory. So you were terrified of walking into the store. And then I was just walking and being like, oh no, I just want to go to Panda Express 5 or 6 times. Finally ended up going in. 10 seconds after I was in, 20 tourists, Spanish, heaps of Chinese people coming and being like, how much is this Donald Trump shit? Everyone wanted it, baby. It's a moment of history. Anyway, so this actually ties in really well to today's video, which is about identity politics and why it's disgusting. Because obviously the whole media has ignited with the fact that Pauline Hanson put out that it's okay to be white, does the Senate support this? Which is just like the Opera House thing, a stupid distraction designed to get people to, even if they were going to pay attention or knew what the TPP was in the first place, but to get all media attention off of huge multilateral things that are changing the very economics and socio-economic and also geopolitical status of this region that is about to be signed. But they just want people to be like, is it okay to be white? Well, I think it's okay to be white. I'm white and I think that. Well, I'm Indian, I don't think it's okay to be white. They want people to be focusing on that. And this is a genius strategy that was actually invented by the Republican Party in the US. I don't know if it was invented by them. Obviously, it's been used for years in advance. But I was just reading a book recently about the Koch brothers. And if you don't know who they are, they're basically the Gina Reinhardt of America, except for way more sinister and way more intelligent. They've been thinking about how to socially re-engineer America to the point where they're going to... Their ultimate goal, I know this sounds insane, but trust a man who is yelling at you with a white screen behind him on the net with a shit camera. These people, for the past 50 years, have been strategizing on how they're going to change the Constitution of America to resemble the Constitution of Chile. Why do they want that? Because the Constitution of Chile basically makes it illegal for you to improve your society at all. So it's just a great breeding ground if you're a magnate billionaire, especially if you own cattle and really like those Mexican hats and that really shit square dancing that they do there. So anyway, that's their ultimate goal. How have they been able to achieve this? Because they know, and this is what happens every time, this is the whole sinister design of identity politics. The ruling elite know that their positions are extremely unpopular. Because what are their positions? How about you let us rape and pillage your resources and then sell them off to foreign banks and foreign mining companies and you get like a scary of it. How about that? 13% of your own resources. Does that sound fair? And then you have people like John Howard that go, more than fair. All I want in exchange for one of the biggest mining booms in human history is for my face to be on the Prime Minister's wall for 4 terms. That's what he traded it in for. Norway got, from their resources boom, their public services handled for generations to come. We got 4 fucking years of a guy that looks remotely like that pedophile. His name is Dennis, his name escapes me. That's what we got from ours. So, what do? And this is acknowledged. This is what the Koch brothers have written in their own dossiers. It's on public record. They know that their position is not popular. They know that they're going to be in a permanent minority because what is their position? Make me really rich, destroy all government services, and just keep like cops and the military so I can shoot down poor people when they come to my door. That's pretty much the gist of what their position is. And then they come up with all these bullshit ideologies and people will go there and just go, you're just an anti-libertarian. I don't think you know what libertarianism is. Alright, so why are they doing that here? Because that model successfully works. So what they have done, the Koch brothers, is that even though they are vehemently anti-religious, they think that it is a waste of time, and that's why I hate them personally, because if you're not a friend of God, you're not a friend of mine. But they know this as a fact. They're on record realizing that if they can sit there and make Americans feel like that they're being discriminated against because they're white, that they're able to get a huge pool of voters who feel like they've been... And essentially what they're doing is, why does this huge pool of voters in the US feel like it's because the black man is getting welfare that I'm personally poor? They think these things. And they think these things because that is what the media is telling them. But the reason that they're poor is because of people like the Koch brothers who just keep exporting all of their wealth overseas so they don't have to pay taxes, they don't have to create jobs here, that they just create factory jobs over in China. That's the main reason why they're poor. Also because they're retarded and they smoke meth. But the overlying reach of why all the wealth is being sapped out of America is because of people like the Koch brothers. And so they use things like coming up with these narratives that white people are going to be a minority by 2040 and that Christianity is under assault. Why is Fox News perpetually pushing that? There's a war on Christmas. It's because they're trying to get people to identify to large generic groups like that they're that they're white, that they're Christian, and so then they soak up votes and they focus on that, and then they get people to vote for people that were completely against their interests. But what has happened is they will actively ignore that because identity and that tribalism that comes with identity is more powerful in the human brain. It's further in the recesses of it. It's just, this is my tribe, this is not my tribe. So you have this ready-to-go voter base, and it doesn't matter what facts you put in front of them, they'll say, yeah, but I got to vote for them because I'm evangelical. That's how identity politics works. That's why the Republican Party, despite it, at this point, this is what conservative columnists have written it as. We're talking conservative academics in the US. They say that the Republican Party in the US isn't even a mainstream parliamentary party anymore. It's a fringe party. It's basically ISIS for Christians. It's a terrorist party. To sit there and say that climate change doesn't exist when you're the biggest emitter in the world, bar China, it is a terrorist act. I'm sorry, there I said it. Be cool. But why is that happening here with Pauline Hanson? But now, what has happened with the Democrats? The Democrats have noticed that this has happened. And the Democrats, because it's not like in Australia where the Democrats really get most of their funding from unions, they get most of their funding from corporations, so they're essentially a worse Liberal Party than here. And that is their quote-unquote for the people party. I mean, given the circumstances of do you want Christian ISIS or a shitter Liberal Party, I'd campaign very heavily for the shitter Liberal Party. But what are they doing? What was the entire Hillary Clinton campaign? You're a woman, you're so oppressed, it's just all these minorities. Trump said something vaguely mean towards Mexicans once, he must kill all Mexicans. It's that. So they're using the same thing, but they're trying to soak up votes on the other end. And why are they doing that? Because there is really consistent data. There is research papers on this that psychologically that is a better way to appeal to dumbasses than to talk policy. That is why identity politics works so powerfully. This is why you will see it over and over again in the mainstream media in Australia here. A, because it works as a really good distraction, because if you just sit there and you say, men suck, then you're just going to get everyone in the comments being like, oh my God, men don't fucking suck, you're a fucking lefty. And then what happens is, when they say that, fucking lefties and stuff, anything that vaguely reminds them of being left, that, how about you have public health care? That might be a good idea. That might benefit everyone, regardless of your gender, creed, whatever your people are called these days, your queer, bloody dealing doo-doos, I've got 2 schlongs, fucking weirdos in Newtown, whatever those things are, they put those things to the forefront, and then anything that vaguely sounds like it's quote-unquote lefty, as we've said in other videos before, whatever that means, but that face gets associated with the Labor Party and the Greens, and they do it to themselves as well because they play into the identity politics thing, because you have to, that once this is introduced into a political discussion or discourse, if you are a major party or if you're a minor party, you're going to play into it, because if you don't play into it, you get chewed out, baby. Someone else is going to take your possession. It's a dog-eat-dog world. So you've got to do it. You have to do it. That's what's so damaging about this, because it's the same thing on either side. You see it constantly. Obviously, you're going to get a bunch of comments on this of just being like, that there's important things about race and gender. No, there's not. You know, Australia is one of the 5 most tolerant countries in the world. And then everyone goes, what about Cronulla riots? Yeah, that's the same as in India, where they massacre 30,000 Muslims. It's just like, it's whacking day for them. They just go, okay, it's time for everybody to go in, make sure you kill the kids as well. That is the rest of the world. Okay? The problems that we have here when it comes to identity, when it comes to gender, when it comes to homosexuality, all these things, they're fucking minor. What is it? The whole foo-for-all about, gay marriage is the most important thing in the world. No, it's not. It should have just been something that the Labor Party just went, yep, okay, done. Doesn't even need to be in the media today. You can get married now. That's all it should have been, right? It was just some little quirk in the voting registry. In law that should have just been ironed out, moving on. Like, they iron out laws consistently. All the time. There is heaps of laws that just get passed that nobody knows happened in Parliament. 80% of Parliament is just that. Just rewording this thing from and to or, I. That's it. That's all it should be. Why did they make it, drag it out for 6 months? Well, I've got another video that's coming out later on, but I'm just going to hint towards it that basically corporate Australia wanted that. Why did they want that? Because corporate Australia has figured out that if you are able to make bullshit little revolutions about people's identity and we should change this date from that date, not only is it not damaging to their profit margin, it's extremely profitable for them. Because what is profit? A lot of the time, the things that moves people's money around is emotions. Why do people buy huge Lexus cars? You don't need that. You buy it because you feel superior buying these things. It's about emotion. And so they've realized that emotions are most heavy in times of revolution. I can imagine, I wasn't there, and all those people sitting in there going, really? Because you're fucking old now. I'd imagine that you would have been fucking revolutionary Russia. But in revolutionary Russia, I would imagine that emotions were really high when the Tsar was getting overthrown. And they've realized that if they can just make these kind of little revolutions, and again, I know this sounds like conspiracy. You can look up the psychological research findings on this. This is what companies are doing. Just like how they can predict before someone themselves knows that they're pregnant, and then Target starts selling them things, going, hey, did you know that diapers are on special at the moment? So it primes the woman that goes, well, babies do shit themselves. And then they go over and buy it from Target because they've been primed for that. This is what happens with this. So why did they make a huge deal out of gay marriage? The reason that they made a huge deal out of gay marriage is because it made people's emotions run high. And then they started marketing it as this huge push forward in society, someone changing a couple of letters around in a bill. You know, that's the thing that they make as like this massive shift. It's never going to be the carbon tax, or if it is the carbon tax, obviously it's just going to be about how damaging it is and how it's going to cost you money. But they're never going to push it forward as, we've got to do this, it's so beneficial to humanity, yay! Yeah, you know what else would be beneficial to humanity? Not dying. So that's the way that identity politics plays out. So Pauline Hanson does this on the other side, obviously. That she sits there and pushes forward these things going, it's okay to be white. Why? Because Pauline Hanson, yeah, she used to be a dumb shit that ran a fish and chip shop, but she's been in politics for 20 years now. She understands what buttons to push to get a reaction. And so it doesn't matter that there's a bunch of people going, oh my god, it's so stupid, white people are on the ABC. She wants that reaction, because to do that, there's going to be a bunch of people watching it going, it was a fucking lefty Marxist ABC's going to fucking say that, wouldn't they? Good on you, Pauline. And she's going to solidify her own voting base. That is better than anything that she can push forward. And again, what is One Nation, really? Doesn't it vote with the Liberal Party 93% of the time? I'm going to have to look up the stats again, but a very high percentile. It votes with the Liberal Party consistently. Like, way more than way more than it opposes it. It's like 9 to 10. 9 out of 10 times. Oops. So when it comes to this is where it boils down to self-help. Is that you see it over and over with research where it goes, and then obviously you get articles coming out of Vice going, did you know that racist, when I say racist, I mean specifically white people, because they're the only people that can be racist. There's nothing racist about huge killings in African countries based on tribe. That's not racist. But, you know, they come out with these papers where they have, from what I can see, conclusively proven, and it's getting very Darwinian, that racists are a subspecies. But it makes a lot of sense if you look at it from that consistent viewpoint that if you're dividing people up through identity, that means that you're probably going to be stupider than the average person. That a racist person, in general, is going to be dumber than the average person because they cannot see further than very superficial things about their own identity. And that's not to say that, you know, the head of the Koch brothers, for instance, who uses that mechanism in the mind, is not an idiot. That man is much smarter than you or I. It's just that he's an evil genius, but different point. When it comes to the average person sitting there going, yeah, it is true, there is a genocide in South Africa, but they don't really give a shit about the genocide in East Timor, for instance. And on top of that, 3 white people getting murdered a day in South Africa when there's about 58 murders in South Africa a day. It's not really a genocide, it's just a fucked place to live. But anyway, the thing is that when it comes to these issues, it's a really good way of speaking to people that have no interest in politics, are stupid, and so you're able to maneuver them on things that aren't actual, it's not politics really, it's tribalism, it's culture. These are the things that they're maneuvering around, and that's why Steve Bannon has observed that politics now is a culture war. That is what has happened to the political discourse in these countries, and it's starting to happen in Australia, but nowhere near as bad as it has in, say, Europe and the US. And there's other reasons to back that up, but that is the optics of it, right? And so when you see people that are normally more educated, you'll see that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what gender or race they are. They understand that some people, regardless of their gender or race, are cunts, and some people, regardless of their gender or race, are good people. There's things that are deeper than that, and it basically comes down to education, which goes to Camille Paglia's point, which is the main spiel of, we're on 20 minutes now. Such a huge pretext ramble, but it's just something that you think about a lot because Friendly Geordies, check it out, that's my other video page to those people that sit there and go, oh, it's a guy that wears shirts from Target talking about how to improve yourself. But the main point that she has is that if you are identifying yourself on the fact that you're Pakistani or that you're black or that you're white or that you're a woman or you're a man or you're a transsexual, it shows that you're stupid. It shows that you have a really superficial understanding of yourself and you have not deeper delved into who you are as a person and what you represent. If you're sitting there going, I'm getting victimized against because I'm a transsexual or I'm a homosexual or heterosexual are getting victimized against. How superficial is that to be like, I prefer to put my willy in a female's bum bum and I prefer to put my willy in a man's bum bum. That's how you're identifying yourself on how you prefer to have sex? It's fucking shallow. Get deeper, bitches. And the way that you do that is, and this is her main point, which I cannot begin to agree with more, which is that in university, the whole thing was a waste of time for me. I studied politics and I make a living off of commenting on politics, essentially. I didn't learn anything in that degree. You know where I learned everything? It was in the library. It was all these forgotten voices that the current university system tries to keep you away from because they're actually spouting truth. And the university system doesn't want that. They just want degrees without any political interference. So they just teach you nothing and then go, that'll be $40,000 for wasting your time for 4 years. But what was worth the 40 grand or whatever it was the fact that the library is sick. So obviously, yeah, so the same point is always on this YouTube channel, that if you're not reading for an hour a day, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. But, and this sounds simplistic, especially for something that has been going for 22 minutes, and it is. But like all self-help tools, they are simple, but are you doing them? And this is your homework for today, which is writing down on a piece of paper. This actually trips you out if you do it enough. Who are you? Now, obviously, when you write it at first, you go, you will sit there and think this is lamer than going back and watching Lord of the Rings, the third movie, and then you realise, yeah, that was only slightly better than The Hobbit. This is pretty sad. And you do that. When you first start writing this, you go, I'm me, I've got brown hair, I guess. But if you keep doing it, trust me, this has good implications for the rest of your life, because if you're really certain about who you are, first of all, more confident walking through life. It's like people that studied karate because they were going, I'm sick of getting bullied at school, the karate kid, yeah, it's the 80s again. And so they started doing that, but as a result of the fact that they know karate now, they don't have to use it because people sense that they can kick their ass. There becomes a certain groundedness in knowing exactly who you are that does massive service to you for the rest of your life. In terms of every interaction that you have, if you're more certain about who you are than the other person is about them, your reality wins. It's very dojo. It's a lot about karate in this. But it's true. You go into it. You go into any situation. Why is it that in corporate environments, it's older people that are dominant in conversations? You would think that it's the title. It's not though, is it? Because the title, when you're in high school and the guy that's the school captain, most of the time that guy gets beaten up. He's a nerd. He's got a title. He's better than you on paper, but not in reality. The point is you could beat him in an arm wrestle. The reason that the older person out there is because they've got more experience in life. And so that they kind of just like, they're happy and they just don't give a shit as a result. So they just go, no, that's shit. No, I like that. That's good. That's where the real authority comes from. Because they're really certain about who they are as a person. And it comes down to the same thing with identity politics and what your identity actually is. Get deeper than that. Get deeper than that. Because when you do see that, you realise that the whole media thing, and the thing that most people that I see all the time in the comments, are people going, I wish I could vote Labour, but there was this one chick that said mansplaining once in a Senate hearing, and guess what party she was from? Labour. So, man the fuck up and vote for a party that says mansplaining every now and then. They have a better climate, health, energy policy than the Liberal Party does. I think that's more important. Again, where does that understanding come from, though? It comes from being certain in yourself and going, yeah, they can say that, but that's not as important as where money is distributed. You know, you have to get a little bit more mature than, I'm a white person and they said something mean about white people, the world's changing. Or if you're an Indian person being like, there's so much racism, poo, oh my God, I can't believe. Who cares? Dumb people care, that's who. Anyway, that's your homework. Write down, who am I? Really think about it. You know what, I honestly think, when I think back on it and all the self-help exercises, that one helps a lot. Because when you write something down, it kind of moves things away from your subconscious and puts it to the forefront of your mind. And that becomes a little bit more important. And if you start sifting through a lot of it, what happens essentially, if you do it for a long period of time as well, you start tripping out. You start having existential crises. So maybe don't go that as far as I did, because that was a couple of years there where, am I Jesus or the devil? I don't know. Yeah. But, you know, do it a bit. All right. See ya.